The original Dragon's Lair was the brainchild of Rick Dyer. The entrepreneur and inventor had the idea to take a new technology, combine it with an animated film, and create an interactive fantasy game called Dragon's Lair.
My wife and I went to see this film called The Secret of NIMH, and I just loved that film. And I just pointed to the screen and I said, Jan, that's who we want to animate Dragon's Lair.
The Secret of NIMH was the product of Don Bluth Productions in Studio City, California. The former Disney animators had struck out on their own. Don Bluth, Gary Goldman, and John Pomeroy have since gone on to produce more than 11 animated motion pictures.
Rick Dyer walked into our office with an idea for a video game based on Laserdisc technology, where we would be able to make a movie-like video game with a branching technique that allowed the player to make certain decisions and watch the continuity and essentially watch a movie.
A deal was quickly put together between the Bluth animation team in Studio City and Dyer's creative team in San Diego. Then began a race against the clock to have a sample ready for the Chicago Game Show just a few months away.
We started in about October, maybe even November of 1982. And we were racing towards a date. I believe the date was March of 1983, which would be the Chicago Game Show. We were borrowing money from everybody we knew to keep this game alive.
We were really doing something that had never been done before because of the introduction of a brand new technology at the time called the laser disc. And it enabled you to have virtually instantaneous access to any part of a film or series of video clips, and you could put them together not quite seamlessly, but almost.
Somewhere around the late January, we found an investor that would put up the money to actually do the production and get us to the Chicago Game Show.
The central character in Dyer's Dragon's Lair is a bumbling knight the team chose to call Dirk the Daring. Creating Dirk was a formidable task.
The problem that animators have, which is very similar to what actors have, is before they can pick up the pencil and draw a character, either his design or draw him moving, you have to figure out what's going on in his head. So I think the first place you go is to try and find the character. And with Dirk, that's what it was all about. We wanted to find out what's going on inside the guy's head. He has illusions of grandeur. He actually thinks he's greater than he really is. That's what makes him funny. He'll tackle something that seems absolutely overwhelmingly impossible because he doesn't get that it's impossible. Dirk to me represents the bumbler. You know, the guy who just can't get it right, trips over himself, his feet are too big, his hands are too big. Everything about him says he's not your typical hero. And I kept thinking, how can we make that guy appealing? And the first thing we went to, usually when you're creating a character, is the voice. You know, what kind of voice is it going to be? And then finally, after trying a lot of voices and hearing a lot of people talk, looking at a lot of videos and everything, we said, well, don't make him talk. Because the more we put a voice in him, the more he took on a different kind of a spin as a hero. And so we just said, if he really is a bumbler, probably all he can do is yell and scream and, and holler and show pain when he bumps into something. So we just made him pretty much a, clumsy guy. And I think that's part of his appeal. A director's lot is a strange one because what you try and do is entertain an audience, and at the same time, at the end of this entertainment, they have learned something that might be edifying to their own life. And I find that storyboarding is the place where I have enjoyed my career the most. Storyboarding is really a director's job, because what it is taking all the little messages, good, bad, scary, whatever they might be, and giving them to the audience at a certain rate of speed or in a certain order so that the audience goes through an emotional experience. And as you follow the escapades or the journey of the hero through a story, it evokes some kind of an emotion in each of us who are the viewers. And the director's job, which has generally been my lot in life, the director's job is to make sure that the audience goes through this journey and has this emotional reaction. I think with Dirk, I really originally expected nothing to happen, but I found that it's probably been one of the most influential characters that we've created.
Dan Molina, who was the original editor of the game, became the voice of Dirk.
They didn't have any funds to hire any real talent, so they hired me. And I was the editor on the film. And I would cut in my little screams and grunts and groans and sounds. And it stuck.
Creating the beautiful Daphne, Dirk's love interest, was a challenge even for a veteran animator like Don Bluth.
My wife had asked me to move all of the Playboys out of the house, and I had about a 5-year collection of Playboys. And I'd stored them up in the attic of the studio, and they were just stacked up. I mean, 5 years worth of 60 Playboys. And Don was down there, he says, I've got to find some poses to put this Daphne in and give her that look, because, we've all agreed she's going to be kind of a Marilyn Monroe type. He says, didn't you bring those Playboys into the studio? And I said, yeah, I did. Yeah. And he said, well, what if we look through there? There might be some poses. And so I brought down, and it was a very funny image seeing Don in there, the king of animation design, with these stacks of Playboys and rummaging through them.
It was a great assignment. I enjoyed it. I thought it was
trying to find these very, sexy poses that put Princess Daphne.
You don't have to turn too many pages in a Playboy to find sexy poses. That just works out just fine. And every artist goes through this. You get to the point on the women where you're drawing the breasts, okay? Then you get to that place on the breast where the nipple is, and you say, well, do I draw this or do I play like it doesn't exist? And so I said, well, it's there. Why not draw it? So I drew it, and it seems to be the thing that the young kids like to look.
Now, with the Chicago Game Show just weeks away, the race was on.
So we raced like mad. If you understand animation, you can't do animation fast, especially if you're going to do it well. And we had a small crew, and we were able to put together, I think, about 5 what we would call rooms that the player could go through. And Rick and the people at Cinematronics took this small portion of the game to Chicago, and it became the hit of that game show.
But it wasn't at all what I expected. We didn't think the game would be anything but just, maybe successful. But it was more than just successful. It was very, very big.